Hello YouTube, this is Maverick. This is my latest parts car I just got in. It's a 98 Lincoln Mark VIII LSC. 163,000 miles. Body's in pretty good shape overall. But for some reason, this car blew a head gasket. Not something you see doesn't seem to be very common on a Mark VIII. This 4.6 delivered head cam, what they call the Intech engine, very similar to the 96 and 98 Mustang Cobra engine. And newer Cobra engines too, based on it as well, but just different variations. But you don't tend to see blown head gaskets on these. These aren't like the Cadillac North Star engines or anything like that, typically. But you do see them from time to time, and this one has it. So it is what it is. It's the same with the North Star. It's kind of a headache to replace all that, and this one has some other issues, especially the interior, stuff like that. So it's kind of been designated a parts car, in my opinion. But it's a nice parts car. I mean, I will give it that. It's as I said, the body is fairly okay. This center light, of course, doesn't work. That's a common issue with Gen-II Mark VIIIs, which is the 97, 98 models. They actually had a neon tail light, brake light set up in the center section here. Not the corner lights. The corner lights are regular bulbs, but the halogen bulbs, you know, whatever. But the center section was actually neon on these 97 98s, and they're known to fail, and this one's no exception to that. And plus it's got some cracks in it too, so it wouldn't be worth a lot of money anyway, probably. But anyway, I just thought I'd give a quick tour of it, keep you up to date what I'm working on. I just finished with the Jaguar XJR. Well, for the most part, you can see there's the engine transmission out of it. So once I pull that, I'm almost done with these things. I mean, you just interior trim, body parts, whatever, whenever somebody needs them. But anyway, let me show you. I see here's some issues with the seats. You know, they've got the side trim coming off, and that sort of thing, which is also pretty common with Mark VIIIs. It happens. The rear seat, it's been pulled out. The bottom part has. I didn't do that, but it was like that when I got it. I really haven't touched this car as far as starting to part it out yet. And it didn't come with a battery. I stuck a battery in it just to mess with it, just to confirm the mileage, because it's got, starting in 97, they went to digital dash, or digital odometer display. So, you know, if you don't have a battery in it, you know, you don't really know the mileage. So let me go ahead and pop the hood here. We'll get back to more of the interior, maybe. Can't get used to, there it is. The hood latch is a little different on these 97 98s too than the first gen, with what I'm more used to. But here we go. The previous owner started to tear it down in the car to replace the head gasket, but soon realized what I'd forgotten actually is that you really can't take these heads off, or you'd be very hard pressed to while the engine's in the car. You really want to drop the engine first. Now I've done it before in a parts car because I cheated a little. I cut the whole inner fender, this whole inner fender part out with the Sawzall. But that was a parts car. You know, obviously I wasn't, it was never going back together. And I didn't care about it, and I pulled the heads off in the engine bay. And even doing that, it was still kind of aggravating, to be honest with you. But if you want to keep one of these, you know, you want to do a head job or whatever on these, or head gasket or whatever, replace heads. Typically, you know, in a car that you're wanting to keep, that's not a parts car, you wanna drop this engine before you really get serious about that, because otherwise you'll end up like this, and then realize you need to drop the engine. And like I said, I forgot about that because I've took them off inside the car before in parts cars. But again, I kind of cheated. But yeah, there you go. In case you really wanted to ever see inside one of these without taking your own valve covers off and all that, and intake and everything else to get to this point, here's what you're looking at inside of a Mark VIII engine. And 97, 98 Cobra, 4.6 12 head cam would be pretty similar. Cams I think are a little bit different, stuff like that. But this is basically what you're looking at. And I'm sure you can find this all over the internet. This isn't anything new that I'm exclusive to my page that I'm posting, but you know, for my followers who may not have thought to look it up before, might not have been that interesting to them, but you know, might have been a curiosity at the back of your head or something, you know. But anyway, and of course there's with no intake. Here's the IMRCs, which open and close at around 3,000 RPM or so. And then here's the driver's side, which is pretty much intact over here, you know. And I've got all the parts and stuff that's taken off already in the trunk. It seems to be everything there complete mostly. And it has aftermarket spring set up on it instead of the air ride. And these look fairly new. I haven't gotten underneath and took the wheels off or anything yet. Like I said, I'm not. The only thing I've done is thrown a battery in it and played around in the interior with some of the switches and controls or whatnot. These headlights do work, the low beams, which from factory are HID Xenon bolt with ballast and all that. You know, the whole works. It's legitimate HID Xenon, not the things you can buy or used to be able to buy. At least I haven't paid attention in a while. I think a lot of my generation, when we were teenagers in the early 2000s, were buying these little bulbs that were supposedly HID Xenon. All they were blue tinted bulbs that some of them drew more wattage than they should have, and they were kind of a mess. But these are legit HID Xenons from the factory. Now I don't know if these have been replaced. There are kits out there to replace them with another HID Xenon kit or just regular halogen bulbs. And they look kind of yellow. These do, compared to the factory HID setup. But you know, these headlight lenses need restored too, and that would make them look yellow too. So, which I'll restore them before I sell the lenses or whatever, but that's not a big deal. But so I don't know if they've been replaced or if they're original and just you know, they don't come through these yellowed housings and making them look yellow. But I'll find out when I take the headlights out. I know what the originals look like, and it does have the original. Well, I think I just answered my own question. I can see a halogen bulb in there. This is where it would go. These are the little factory cups that seal the light. But anyway, it looks like a regular halogen bulb is in there, and whether they use the proper kit, or I've seen, you know, things done up homemade or whatever on these because the replacements are so expensive. They have been. Sometimes you can get used ones for fairly cheap, especially in the Mark VIII groups and whatnot. But on eBay and everything, the replacements are ridiculous. I mean, I remember a time where, at least on the 96 LSC, which had the same bulbs and ballast set up, all that, you could get the housings, the bulbs, the ballast, all that for $600 some per side, which in that day was pretty expensive. But nowadays, that'd be for all brand new today. That's a steal. There's 96 LSC housings go for a premium by themselves, just empty housings if they're in decent shape. But I'm getting a little off topic here. Anyway, let's go into the interior. I don't know how good this battery is holding charge. I've had it in here for a while. There you go. 163, 256.5 miles on this one. And, oh, the check engine light's on. I wonder why. I was pleased to see, though, that the anti-lock brake lights don't seem to be on this car. Doesn't seem to be a problem with the ABS or the traction assist or any of that, which goes through the ABS. And the reason is 98 is a 1 year only ABS system. So if you have a 98 and the ABS sensors or something mess up on it, that's kind of Ford or Lincoln's parting gift to you with the Mark VIII, is you get stuck with 1 year only, hard to find, expensive sometimes when you do find them, ABS sensors and parts and whatnot. So kind of like the 96, some of the 96 Lincoln Mark VIII parts, which are hard to find and expensive when you do find them. These 1 year only things are, you know, like I said, it's kind of Ford's Ford's not so friendly parting gift to Mark VIII owners. And of course, I'm referring to the fact that in this case, the 98, it was the last year of the Mark VIII. 96 was the last year of the Gen-I, which is why it was kind of an orphan too, because it's a Gen-I, but it's got OBD2 electronics and all this on it, and so it was the only Gen-I like that. Then 97, they went to a completely different setup, different intake. All kinds of different stuff on them, and electronics and whatnot, and so a lot of times the 96s are orphaned there too, where the 93 to 95 parts won't work on them. Electronic parts, typically, what I'm talking about, won't work on them. Like the IMRC controller, I know that's one of the problems, and the VCLM computer. It controls the electric fan and the fuel pump, some other stuff. It's a problem. But they don't interchange with any other year. That's what I'm specifically talking about. Anyway, I like this interior on these. They're pretty cool. It's got a pretty good sound system in it. Let me put it on a... I don't know, it's been so long since I've heard a factory JBL system before this, that maybe I've forgotten. But anyway, like I was saying, it's been so long since I've heard a factory JBL system before this one that maybe I've kind of... I remember that they were, back in the day, they were pretty... what word am I trying to say without being offensive? They were pretty stout for what they were for a factory system back in the day. I do remember that. But on my Mark VIIIs I've changed the system out and upgraded a little bit. Even the best 90s technology is kind of, you can get better today with aftermarket speakers and whatnot. But the JBL is pretty stout system for a factory 90s. And of course this thing has all kinds of stuff on it. The Gen-II, my first impression of it, granted I test drove one years and years and years ago, but I never got to play around with one as much as this one. And I've not really messed with it. I might have messed with this one maybe half an hour tops. But I've found out a lot of things about it that are different from the Gen-I, that are just little things, but they... it seems to me, my impression is that, Ford owned Jaguar during this time. And like I said, I'm very familiar with Jaguars. Having owned some myself and parted out several. It seems like Ford borrowed some ideas from Jaguar in this Mark VIII. In fact, I'd venture to say that as far as features and whatnot, a 98 Mark VIII and a 98 Jaguar were pretty much equipped the same. I'd almost have to give the Mark VIII a nod as far as maybe being the car I would prefer, to be honest with you. And and the Jaguar costs more. As expensive. The Mark VIIIs weren't cheap by any means. I mean, they were Lincoln's flagship. They were, as far as their obviously town car would be more their flagship, I suppose. But the Mark VIII was their sports car. Was their... What I'm trying to say is they debuted a lot of technology in the Mark VIII, and a lot of options and whatnot that their other models didn't get. And I'm running kind of low on time here. I've rambled on a little bit, but just to show you a few things. See, this thing's got power tilt. Let's see, power tilt and telescoping column. I don't know if you can see it. It's got one-touch sunroof. You just touch the button once, and the sunroof goes back. And again, both of these are exclusive to the Gen-II. The Gen-Is didn't have neither of those. It's got the computer system on this thing is a lot more sophisticated. You've got vehicle settings, driver settings. You control your traction control and all kinds of stuff through here. Whereas on the Gen-Is, you just had a button down here next to the rear defrost button. What else was I thinking of? Oh, I realized I couldn't see this the other day when I picked the car up and ended up breaking the parking brake lever. But there's the park brake release on these. I was trying to push the park brake in like you do on the Gen-Is. You push it in to set it and push it in again to release it. Yeah, that don't work on the Gen-IIs, at least not on the 98s. I can't remember the other one I test drove. It might have been it was a Gen-II. I don't know if it was a 97 or 98 or what. I don't remember. It's been so many years ago. And it was a base model, had more miles than this. It had 200,000 miles on it. Where this one's only got 163. Which I think is odd that it blew a head gasket at such low mileage. I mean, I don't know the circumstances behind it, but I do know that on my 93, I had it overheated quite a few times when I was younger, and to the point where it should have blown a head gasket. It was in bad, dire straits, and it didn't. That's just a testament to how well these engines were built. But there's always exception to the rule, and so I'm not sure what really happened to this car to make it blow a head gasket. And you know, and people have been around cars long enough, and probably most of my audience, you kind of understand that you could buy two cars exact the same. You know, same engine, transmission, rear end, gearing, etc., etc. I mean, down to the same color and interior. You can buy two cars that are exactly the same, and they'll be different as far as either how they perform. One will be faster than the other one, or their longevity. One will last longer. And you can maintain them the same and everything too, you know. I mean, that's a given too. But one's always going to outlast the other one, and one's always going to be a lot of times be, you know, maybe a little bit peppier or something like that, you know. And it doesn't make sense on paper, but in the real world, that's kind of how a lot of things happen. And before I close this out, one thing I did notice too about these Gen-IIs being more like Jaguars, which I was pleased to see when loading this car up on the trailer, is this car, the Gen-IIs, or this 98 at least, has tow hooks at all four corners, which makes things, you know, a little bit easier as far as finding places to strap down or whatever. I mean, it's there, and I was kind of surprised to see that when I crawled underneath it to pull it up on the trailer the other day, and so that made things easier. And the Gen-1s don't have that. None of the Gen-1s I've messed with have had that, so you know, that's cool. But anyway, I just wanted to give you kind of a tour of this new parts car I got, and I'll get on it. It's Sunday right now, so I've got some plans for tomorrow. But I'll be getting on it soon. I'll be getting on it this week. Like I said, I finished with that Jaguar. There's the engine permit back there. And so, this one's next. But anyway, hope you enjoyed my video. And this is Maverick, out.